What's up guys, I'm Will with thewillgrant.com, and in this video I'm going to show you the top 3 must-have plants in your garden. So it is an absolutely beautiful day, and if you're wondering, I live in central Florida, around St. Pete, Tampa area. It stays pretty warm year round, but it does get cold every once in a while. We do have freezes. So these plants are gonna work well for anyone living in a warm or semi-warm area. Maybe not work as much if you live way up north where you get snow and maybe a month or two of snow. Me and my roommate have been experimenting and growing this garden for almost the past 2 years now, and it's definitely a different type. It's more of a food forest, edible landscape type permaculture garden instead of like a regular annual vegetable garden. And what the main difference is we focus more on plants where you just plant it and forget about it. You don't have to replant it every single year. So a lot of fruit trees, a lot of shrubs, a lot of perennial vegetables. After we planted pretty much all of these plants, we really don't do too much work into the garden. All we do is just, they really thrive on neglect. So we are traveling constantly, so there's a lot of times where there's weeks, even a month, where we're just not able to tend to any of these plants. So they actually do really well regardless, because just like the forest, no one has to water the forest, nobody has to fertilize the forest. So really one of the coolest things about growing this type of garden is just watching it really evolve on a daily, monthly basis, really into its own ecosystem. So it's cool as more biomass and more life comes into the garden. It just brings more butterflies, more birds, a bunch of different animals, and it's pretty cool to watch. It's really starting to actually feed us and my friends as well, which is awesome, because there's no better food or nutrition than the food that is grown in your yard. That's what's gonna actually hold the highest nutritional content on top of just being the best for you. In this video, I'm gonna give you the top 3 performers out of all of those plants. So out of all the plants that we've been planting and experimenting with, these are the absolute 3 must-haves that you just gotta have. All right, so number 1, the must-have plant that you have to have in your garden is, you guessed it, bananas. Banana trees are actually pretty sweet, and what a lot of people don't realize is there's actually like hundreds of different varieties of bananas. The bananas that we're used to is just that one variety at the grocery store that is actually designed because it's so good at being shipped for thousands of miles and keeping for months without going yellow. But there's actually, like I said, about hundreds of different varieties of bananas. Like those are ice cream flavored bananas, that one right there is apple flavored bananas, and we have another strain up there which I can't remember the name. But bananas are an absolute must-have. They just produce so much amazing tasting fruit, and they're really easy to grow, really. This is one of my banana plants, and I have 3 of them right here, what I like to call a banana pit. See, this is one of my favorite things about the banana plants. You see that this banana tree right here is fruiting, and as it's fruiting it gets real heavy and it starts to tip over, and then when that happens it actually gives you a bunch more baby banana plants that you can either leave here or you can take and plant to other parts of your yard or do whatever you want with. So usually every plant will give off anywhere between 4 to 7 new plants, which I just think is awesome, because it's a great way to really expand your food forest, expand your garden for really little to no cost. So it's just kind of the plant that keeps paying you back. These are all actually pups of the other banana plants that I had, and you just take those pups, and I'm kind of creating a little bit of a border between my house and the neighbor's house. and it's just adding a little bit more privacy on top of that. They look really tropical, they look really cool. Banana plants are actually really heavy feeders, so they need a lot of nourishment and a lot of water to really produce the banana fruit that is loaded with nourishment as well. So what we do, as you can see, we're just constantly adding compost and taking all of our leaves and our plant debris and always feeding it to the bananas. And you want to make sure that you plant the bananas in a lower part of your yard, because that's where the water tends to flow. Our grass clippings, all of our plant clippings, you see, we will just feed them straight into the bananas, and that's what keeps them happy, keeps them healthy, and keeps them growing fast and producing fruit. Another thing that I learned from Pete from Green Dreams is actually the thing about bananas is when it gets under 50 degrees, they kind of stop growing. But it's been under 50 degrees many times this year here in Florida, and they're still healthy, they're still good. They just slow down a little bit, and then as soon as it gets past that 50 degrees, boom, they're back to ripping. So the second must-have plant that you do need in your garden is non-edible, but it just brings so many benefits, it's definitely a must-have. And that is the Mexican sunflower. Look at that. It's not only really pretty and just brings a good visual aspect to your garden, but it actually attracts a lot of great pollinators that help pollinate your flowers to bring the fruits. And it also is like a natural organic fertilizer. Pound for pound, it brings more nourishment than chicken manure straight to your garden and straight to your plants. So especially, like I said, the bananas are the heavy feeders, and it's so easy because it grows so fast. You can see all this behind me is Mexican sunflower, and it's literally grown that tall, about 15 feet in the air, in less than a year, really just a few months. So I can always cut that back and feed it to my plants who need that extra food, and it is just pound for pound great fertilizer. On top of that, all I have to do is just cut off a piece or a branch of that and stick that in the ground, and it's gonna grow me another Mexican sunflower. So I can have unlimited Mexican sunflower all around my place, so I can grow my fertilizer, so I won't have to outsource any of that. And on top of that, it's just a great way to start a food forest, to start a permaculture, because we're always having to improve the nourishment in your soil and improve the quality of your soil, and Mexican sunflowers are just a great way to do that. They actually have roots that go in super deep that other plants can't get, and they bring those vitamins and minerals up, and when you cut it and feed it to your plants, it is, like I said, just a great source of nutrition for your plants. They work great as borders, so a border, a fence, and then on top of that, look how cool these flowers are. Yeah, so the flowers are pretty sweet, and you can see they grow pretty tall. See, there's a flower way up there. Probably in the next few weeks to a month, all of these right here will all have those Mexican sunflowers over it. And you can see how fast they grow. So it's one of the easiest ways to add that extra biomass into your garden, and just growing your natural fertilizer, growing your border, growing your fence, and it's extremely great for the environment. How I said that the bananas are such heavy feeders, you can see that we take all of our plant scraps and our plant cuttings and just feed it straight to the bananas, and you see all three of these big bananas, they're fruiting. Alright, so the third and final must-have plant I'm super excited about is actually a plant that I use almost on a daily basis, and they like to call it the miracle tree, but the actual name is a moringa tree. And a lot of you may have heard of moringa because it's a really expensive nutritional powder, but the actual tree grows pretty much anywhere that's relatively warm, and it grows like a weed. I actually use this tree almost on a daily basis. These leaves are pound for pound supposed to be some of the most nourishing leaves on the planet, and I can just pick them raw, throw them straight in my smoothie, and you can't ask for better and more nourishment than something like a moringa tree. It's supposed to be extremely high in calcium, all the vitamins A, B, C, even protein. This thing is loaded with, packed with nourishment that you need. Literally a handful of this tends to be more nourishment than most people have in a month. I've heard people actually using the seeds to purify water, and it's super easy to grow again, and it grows super fast. It'll grow like 10 to 15 feet in just 6 months. So it's great to add again a natural fertilizer into your garden, and just like the Mexican sunflower, you can actually cut those and plant them straight into the ground, and it'll regrow a moringa tree. So there's no excuse to be lacking with nourishment when you have a moringa tree growing in your house. Is the tree pretty? That may be a bit debatable, but for all the benefits that it brings to my life, and it could to yours, it's definitely worth it. And literally, it's so simple. You just take this, pull off a handful of leaves, throw this in the smoothie, and you cannot ask for better nourishment than a moringa tree grown in your backyard. I really hope this video brought some inspiration to you guys to go out and plant some trees in your yard that not only give you the best nourishment possible, because there is no better food than the food that's grown in your yard, and on top of that, it actually helps fight climate change and helps this earth. So go out and plant some trees, and let's make the world a better place. And if you do go outside or do anything outside, plan on planting a garden or playing in a garden, make sure you check out the app My Radar. It's actually a completely free app that I use all the time, that you just click on it and it tells you any of the weather that's coming in. Super simple, so make sure you download that app. I'll leave that in the description below as well. Alright guys, thank you so much for sticking around to the end of this video. If you have any questions or comments, just leave those in the description below and I will do my best to answer them. But if you haven't checked out my website already, check that out at www.thewillgrant.com. Oh yeah, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Oh yeah, and don't forget to like and subscribe. For sticking around to the end of this, whoa, big butterfly.